You know that voice inside your head that keeps saying, "I'm not creative"? That's a lie. And I need you to hear me when I say this. Every single person, including you, was born with creativity wired into their DNA. You don't have to be an artist, a writer, or a designer to be creative. Creativity isn't about painting a masterpiece or composing a song that tops the charts. Creativity is about how you solve problems, how you express yourself, and how you see the world differently. And the truth is, you've been using creativity your entire life. You've just stopped giving yourself permission to own it. Somewhere along the way, you stopped exploring, you stopped experimenting, you stopped playing, and it wasn't because you lost your creativity, it's because you started believing all the noise around you. You were told to be realistic, to grow up, to stick to what's safe, so you built walls around your ideas. You stopped sharing them. You started holding back because you didn't want to look stupid or fail in front of people, and little by little, your creativity didn't disappear, it went quiet. But here's the good news, it's still there, it's not gone, it's waiting, and unlocking it starts with one simple decision: to give yourself permission to be curious again. That's where creativity lives. It lives in curiosity, in asking questions nobody else is asking, in trying something you've never done before. You don't need to have the perfect plan. You don't need to know where it's going to lead. You just need to start following the sparks, those little ideas, those random thoughts, those what ifs that keep popping into your head. Do you know why most people never unlock their creativity? Because they're terrified of judgment. They're scared of what people will think if they fail, if they get it wrong, if their idea doesn't make sense right away. But creativity was never meant to be perfect. It was never meant to be polished. Creativity is messy, it's uncomfortable, it's unpredictable, and that's what makes it powerful. When you stop trying to control the outcome and start exploring the process, you give yourself permission to grow. Think about every single breakthrough you've ever had in your work, in your relationships, in your life. They didn't come from following the rules, they came from breaking them. They came from doing something differently, from trusting yourself enough to take a chance. That's what creativity really is. It's trusting yourself. It's believing that your ideas matter, even when they don't make sense to anyone else yet. And here's the thing: you don't find creativity by thinking about it. You find it by doing. You unlock it by taking action, by making something, by experimenting without knowing the outcome. Write the first sentence, sketch the first line, build the first version, share the first idea. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. Creativity doesn't show up fully formed, it grows in motion. Your brain is capable of so much more than you give it credit for. But you have to feed it. You have to challenge it. You have to give yourself permission to play, to fail, to learn, and to try again. Every great idea you've ever admired started out as something messy, unclear, and imperfect. But the people who created them didn't quit. They didn't talk themselves out of trying, and neither should you. Your creativity is not gone. It's alive. It's inside you right now, waiting for you to stop doubting it and start trusting it. The moment you choose to act on your ideas instead of dismissing them is the moment you unlock a part of yourself you've been ignoring for far too long. Creativity is not something you're magically born with. It's something you unlock. It's not a gift reserved for a chosen few. It's a skill, a mindset, a muscle that every single person has. The problem is, most of us have been conditioned to believe we aren't creative because somewhere along the way, someone convinced us that creativity only belongs to artists, musicians, writers, or designers. And that's just not true. Creativity is about how you think, how you solve problems, and how you approach life. Here's the real truth: your brain is wired for creativity. Science backs this up. Every time you dream, visualize, or even imagine a different outcome for your life, you're using creativity. The issue isn't that you don't have it. It's that you've stopped using it, and you stopped using it because of fear. Fear of looking stupid, fear of failing, fear of being judged. You've been taught to play it safe, stick to what's familiar, and follow the rules. And while that might feel comfortable, it kills the one thing that makes you feel alive, your ability to imagine, explore, and create. Think about when you were a kid, you didn't overthink. You didn't stop yourself from building the tallest Lego tower or drawing a wild picture just because someone might not like it. You followed your curiosity, you experimented, you played. That's creativity in its purest form. And you still have that within you, but somewhere between growing up, paying bills, and trying to fit in, you stopped giving yourself permission to be curious. Here's the thing, creativity isn't unlocked by sitting around waiting for inspiration to hit you. That's the biggest myth out there. Inspiration doesn't just magically arrive, it shows up when you do. You unlock your creativity by taking action, by trying things, by experimenting, by failing and trying again. You cannot think your way into being creative. You have to do your way into it. Most people never unlock their creativity because they're waiting for the perfect idea before they start. But the perfect idea doesn't exist. The people you admire, the innovators, the artists, the entrepreneurs, they didn't start with perfect ideas. They started messy. They started uncertain. They started scared. The difference between them and everyone else isn't talent, it's action. They were willing to create badly before they could create brilliantly. And here's the wild part. Your first attempts will probably suck. That's normal. That's part of the process. Creativity requires you to step into the unknown. And yes, that's uncomfortable. But discomfort is a sign you're growing, that you're stretching beyond what you already know. You're wiring your brain to think differently, to see possibilities where others see problems. That's where creativity lives, on the other side of action. Every time you take a small creative risk, writing one sentence, sketching one idea, brainstorming one solution, you're teaching your brain that it's safe to explore. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Your ideas will start flowing, your problem solving will sharpen, and your confidence will grow. But none of that happens if you sit around waiting for creativity to magically appear. You have to decide. Decide to stop overthinking, stop second-guessing, stop worrying about what people will think. Decide to take the first step, however small it is, because action is what unlocks creativity. And action is always available to you right now. Stop waiting for the perfect moment because it doesn't exist. That's one of the biggest lies you've been telling yourself, that you'll start when you feel ready, when you have more time, when the circumstances are just right. But let me tell you something, readiness is a myth. If you keep waiting for the stars to align, you'll spend your entire life standing still. Creativity doesn't work that way. Inspiration doesn't knock on your door politely when you're comfortable and prepared. It shows up when you're already in motion, when you're doing the work, when you're taking action despite not having all the answers. The problem is, we've been taught to equate creativity with perfection. You think your ideas have to be fully formed before you can act on them. You believe you need more knowledge, more time, or more clarity before you begin. That's why you sit there stuck, holding on to incredible ideas that never see the light of day. But the truth is, creativity grows through experimentation, not through endless planning. It thrives when you move, when you make, when you try. Think about the people you admire most. Innovators, entrepreneurs, artists, writers. Do you think they had it all figured out before they started? Absolutely not. They didn't wait until they had every detail planned. They took messy, imperfect action, and it was that action that led to clarity. You don't gain confidence by thinking, you gain confidence by doing, and creativity works the same way. Here's the harsh reality. If you're sitting around waiting for the perfect time to start, what you're really doing is procrastinating out of fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment, fear of getting it wrong. But here's the thing, you are going to get it wrong sometimes, and that's exactly how you learn. Mistakes aren't proof that you're not creative. They're part of the process of becoming creative. Let me ask you something. How many times have you had a great idea only to talk yourself out of it? You convinced yourself it wasn't good enough, or you weren't ready, or someone else would do it better. And then weeks, months, even years go by, and you're still holding on to the same idea, untouched, unrealized. That's not because the idea wasn't powerful. It's because you never gave it a chance to grow. You unlock creativity by taking the smallest possible step forward right now. Write one sentence, record one voice note, sketch one rough outline. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It just has to exist outside of your head. Because once you start, something incredible happens, momentum kicks in. You stop overthinking and start creating. Creativity is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. But muscles don't grow from thinking about exercise. They grow from actually moving. And the same goes for your ideas. You cannot think your way into being creative. You act your way into it. That's why waiting is the enemy. Waiting keeps you frozen, trapped in your head, convinced that the timing isn't right. But the timing will never be perfect. The people who achieve creative breakthroughs aren't smarter than you. They're not luckier. They just start before they're ready. They trust themselves enough to take the first messy step and figure it out along the way. And the more you act, the more you learn, the more your confidence grows. Before you know it, you're not just unlocking creativity, you're living it. The fear of judgment kills more ideas than failure ever will. Let that sink in for a moment. It's not your lack of talent. It's not your lack of resources. It's not even your lack of time that's keeping you stuck. It's the story in your head about what other people will think. And here's the thing, that fear is costing you your creativity, your opportunities, and your happiness. You've been trained since childhood to seek approval. Think about it. You got gold stars for following the rules, applause for doing what was expected, and validation when you stayed inside the lines. Over time, you started to internalize a dangerous belief: if people approve of me, I'm safe. And that belief has been running your life ever since. You hesitate to speak up in meetings because you're worried about sounding stupid. You stop yourself from posting that idea online because you're terrified of negative comments. You hide your art, your thoughts, your authentic self because what if someone laughs? What if someone criticizes you? But here's the raw truth. People are going to judge you no matter what you do. You can stay silent, play small, never try anything new, and someone will still have an opinion about it. So if judgment is inevitable, why would you let it control your life? Why would you choose to betray yourself just to avoid the possibility of someone not liking you? When you stop worrying about judgment, you unlock an entirely different level of creativity. Because here's the secret nobody tells you: creativity cannot coexist with perfectionism. Perfectionism is rooted in fear, the fear of looking stupid, the fear of failing publicly, the fear of not being enough. And when fear is driving, creativity gets shoved into the back seat. Think about kids. They're naturally creative because they haven't yet learned to care what people think. They'll draw wildly, build castles out of cardboard, make up entire stories about superheroes and dragons, and they don't stop to ask, is this good enough? They just create. They don't censor themselves. But as adults, we start editing before we even begin. We destroy our own ideas before they have a chance to exist. That's not because we've lost creativity. It's because we've buried it under layers of self-judgment and imagined criticism. Let me tell you something powerful. The people who achieve great things in life are not the ones with the best ideas. They're the ones who act on their ideas despite fear. They choose curiosity over perfection. They choose progress over approval. They're willing to look foolish for a while because they know the only way to create something extraordinary is to be brave enough to start imperfectly. You cannot wait until you feel confident to act. Confidence comes after action, not before. You become confident when you try, when you learn, when you fail, and get back up. Every time you take a risk, no matter how small, you're proving to yourself that other people's opinions don't control you. And with every step, your creativity expands. Here's what's wild: the judgment you're afraid of usually doesn't even exist. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to be thinking about you. And even if they are, their opinion doesn't define you. What defines you are the risks you take, the ideas you bring to life, and the courage you build by showing up despite fear. So stop editing yourself before you begin. Stop holding your creativity hostage because of what someone might think. Judgment is inevitable. Regret is optional. And I promise you this: the pain of wondering, what if I had tried, will always be greater than the sting of someone else's opinion. Your creativity hasn't disappeared. It hasn't faded. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's been buried under layers of self-doubt, fear, overthinking, and years of listening to that relentless inner critic that keeps telling you you're not good enough. And if you've ever sat there wondering why you feel stuck, uninspired, or disconnected from your own ideas, let me tell you something. It's not because you've lost your creativity. It's because you've stopped trusting yourself. At some point in your life, you decided that your ideas didn't matter as much as other people's opinions. Maybe it was a teacher who told you your drawing wasn't good enough. Maybe it was a parent who said, be realistic. Maybe it was a friend who laughed at your dream. Over time, those small cuts add up. Every dismissive comment, every rejection, every moment of embarrassment piles onto you until one day you start believing the lie that you're not creative at all. But that's not true. Your creativity is still inside you, waiting for you to remove the weight you've placed on top of it. Here's what you need to understand: creativity doesn't vanish, but your access to it gets blocked when you're living in constant self-doubt. Every time you second guess yourself, every time you think, what if I fail? What if people don't like it? What if I'm not good enough? You're putting another brick in the wall between you and your ideas. And here's the kicker: the longer you wait, the thicker that wall becomes. But here's the good news: you can tear it down. You can reconnect with that creative part of yourself. And the very first step is learning to trust your instincts again. Think about this. The most brilliant ideas you've ever had probably came to you in moments when you weren't overthinking. Maybe it was in the shower, on a long walk, or late at night when your brain was relaxed and unguarded. That's not a coincidence. When you're not busy criticizing yourself, your mind finally has space to explore, to imagine, to connect the dots in new ways. Creativity doesn't thrive under pressure, it thrives in permission. But most of us don't give ourselves permission to create freely anymore. Instead, we demand perfection from ourselves before we've even begun. We kill our ideas in the earliest stages because they don't look polished yet. But here's the thing: creativity is messy in the beginning. It's supposed to be. Every breakthrough you admire, every invention you use, every piece of art that moves you started as something small, rough, and unrefined. If you're rejecting your ideas before they've had a chance to grow, you're sabotaging your own creativity. Let me remind you of something powerful. Self-doubt is loud, but it's not always right. That voice in your head telling you you're not good enough, that's fear pretending to protect you. And yes, fear feels real, but it doesn't have to control you. The next time an idea pops into your head, instead of immediately dismissing it, pause and lean in. Ask yourself, what if this could work? Don't worry about whether it's perfect. Don't worry about what anyone else would think. Focus on getting it out of your head and into the world. You see, creativity isn't about having all the answers. It's about being brave enough to explore without them. It's about giving yourself permission to try, to fail, to figure it out as you go. The most successful, innovative, creative people in the world are not fearless. They've just learned to act despite fear, and so can you. Your creativity is still there waiting. It's not gone. It's been buried under the weight of everything you've told yourself about why you can't, why you shouldn't, why you're not ready. But the moment you decide to trust yourself again, to listen to that small, quiet voice inside that says, what if everything changes? You don't have to have it figured out. You just have to begin. Every breakthrough starts messy, unclear, and imperfect. That's the truth nobody wants to admit, but it's the truth that will set you free. You look at successful people, the innovators, the creators, the game changers, and you assume they had it all figured out from the start. You imagine they had some magical clarity, some master plan, some endless confidence that propelled them forward. But they didn't. What they had was courage. They started without knowing exactly how things would work out. They embraced the mess, the uncertainty, the awkwardness, and that's why they succeeded. Your creativity will never come alive if you're waiting for the perfect moment. That moment doesn't exist. There will always be doubt, fear, and uncertainty at the beginning. You will never feel fully ready, and you know what? That's okay. Readiness is a lie. Clarity is something you earn by starting, not something you have before you start. The act of doing creates the answers you've been waiting for. The problem is most people don't start at all because they're terrified of looking foolish. You want your first attempt to be perfect. You want your first draft to read like a bestseller. You want your first video to look like a professional production. But perfection doesn't exist in the beginning stages. Every master you admire was once a beginner, fumbling their way through uncertainty. Every single one of them had a first sketch, a first draft, a first messy attempt, and they probably hated it, but they did it anyway. And then they did it again, and again, and again, until the thing that once felt awkward started to feel natural. The truth is, messy action beats perfect planning every single time. You don't need to see the entire staircase to take the first step. You don't need to know all the answers before you begin. What you need is the courage to move, even when you don't feel ready. That's where transformation begins. Here's the magic of starting: messy action builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. You cannot think your way into feeling creative, you act your way there. The moment you put pen to paper, pick up the brush, write the first line, record the first clip, you've shifted from overthinking into creating, and when you create, even imperfectly, you start to discover what works and what doesn't. That's how clarity is born, through trial, error, and learning in real time. But here's the trap: when you hesitate, when you wait for perfect, you stay stuck in your head. You analyze, you compare, you doubt yourself, and all that overthinking kills the very spark you're trying to ignite. You become paralyzed by possibilities instead of empowered by action. The people who create extraordinary things are not the ones who had it all figured out. They're the ones who were willing to look foolish and keep going anyway. Messy beginnings are not a sign of failure. They are proof you're growing. They are evidence that you're stepping outside your comfort zone and giving yourself a chance to discover what you're capable of. Creativity doesn't happen in a straight, clean line. It happens in chaos, in trial and error, in throwing ideas at the wall and seeing what sticks. And if you're brave enough to endure the discomfort of starting imperfectly, you'll find something incredible on the other side of your potential. You are not supposed to get it right the first time. You're supposed to start, learn, adjust, and keep going. That's the process. That's how breakthroughs happen. Stop waiting for certainty. Stop waiting to feel confident. Stop waiting for someone to validate your ideas. The power you're looking for isn't out there somewhere. It's already inside you, but you won't unlock it by thinking about it. You unlock it by doing. Take the leap. Write the bad first draft. Sketch the crooked lines. Record the shaky video. Give yourself permission to start messy, because messy is where the magic begins. You've been carrying this creative spark inside you your entire life. It's never left you. It's never disappeared. It's just been waiting for you to stop doubting yourself, waiting for you to stop overthinking, waiting for you to trust that quiet little voice inside that whispers, "There's more in you." You don't need permission